Hey guys, I can't wait to share the theory that I finally put together for us to talk about. I think that we might get closer to Coen as a character because of his mysterious markings. You know, some tattoos tell stories, others carry power. But what if they speak a language older than myth? In the blood of Dawnwalker, Coen's red markings have always stood out, etched into his skin like burning cuts, symbols that bleed a forgotten meaning. At first glance, they echo magical traditions from recent centuries, but the deeper I looked, the more I saw signs of something ancient, something buried. A lost script, a culture long dead, and a story drawn in blood that might change everything we know about the world Coen walks through. In this video, I'm diving into the mystery behind Coen's tattoos, decoding their possible roots in occult symbols and, most surprisingly, one of the oldest known writing systems in Europe. Let's start talking. I know that there is a theory that Coen's tattoos drew influence from Bosnian custom called, I hope I'm reading it correctly, I'm sorry if I don't, sigils. But sadly I can't see any similarities. The practice itself is beautiful and full of cultural meanings. However, it's too modern and geometrically perfect for the style of the tattoo we see on the game poster. Bosnian tattoos have meanings that are hardly connected to Coen's journey as a protagonist, and unfortunately, I can't find any connections to old magical rituals or supernatural references either. When we first see Coen's red tattoos, they immediately stand out as more than just body art. These symbols are precisely etched, glowing faintly like cuts that never truly healed. The design feels deliberate, layered, and steeped in mystery. If we examine Coen closer, we can see clear influences from multiple symbolic traditions. Several of the symbols resemble runic characters, likely inspired by the Elder Futhark, a runic alphabet used by Germanic tribes including Norse and Anglo-Saxon cultures. This gives the tattoo a distinctly Viking or Norse mystic feel. Some of the circular patterns and intersecting lines look similar to alchemical or occult diagrams, which were often used in medieval Europe for esoteric purposes. These designs are common in fantasy worlds to suggest magical knowledge or forbidden power. If we talk about specific symbols, the diamond-shaped runes and zigzag lines could represent protection or elemental forces. The circle with intersecting lines might be a stylized sigil or ward, and the bottom part with a more complex geometric figure could be referencing a binding rune or magical seal. The presence of Elder Futhark-style runes suggests an origin in Norse mysticism where each rune holds not just phonetic but esoteric power. Moreover, we can notice elements of binding runes with an actual meaning. For example, if we look at the picture from the top of it, so the top symbols near the elbow, they can show diamonds or something like squares that reversed or rotated with the vertical lines inside. This resembles ingwas, a rune associated with fertility, inner growth, and potential energy. It often means something waiting to awaken. Also, it has similarities to protective bind runes used in northern magical traditions. Two angular zigzag lines like mirrored S-shapes closely resembles Ewas, the rune of the yew tree, transformation, death and rebirth, and connection between realms. Central vertical line with crossing symbols in the middle. An arc over a circle with inner vertical line and two arrows. This mostly looks like a stylized compass It even has a little anchor there. I think it's an anchor, I don't know. So it could be a compass or an astrological glyph, possibly symbolizing direction or fate. It could be a fantasy reinterpretation of Vigvisir, the Norse wayfinder symbol. Then we see crossed lines forming a cross or a star. These could resemble a bind rune, often crafted from Nauthis, means need, hardship, or necessity. It signifies the challenges and hardships of life, often acting as a catalyst for growth and transformation. And then, Ansus, communication and wisdom. Altogether, it could mean divine providence or knowledge gained through hardship. If we look at the lower part that is closer to the wrist, we can see a circular symbol with inner geometries. It heavily resembles alchemy or occult seals. It's likely a stylized magical sigil, perhaps a seal of power or binding. In the fantasy context, this would symbolize a permanent enchantment or oath. Then a conical or flame-shaped symbol at the very bottom could be interpreted as kenas, meaning torch, knowledge, and controlled fire. Its position at the base suggests a foundation of knowledge or ignition of purpose. Also, there is a clear inspiration from Old Norse Svefnthorn, which translates to sleep thorn, referencing the symbol's legendary power to cause deep sleep and cast magic. Meanwhile, the structured circles, intersecting lines, and symmetry hint at alchemical diagrams, tools used in medieval Europe for ritual and transformation. These tattoos are a visual language, and the question is, what are they saying? If we consider that the tattoos have exclusively Nordic meaning, we can get a rough translation to these functioning binding runes. Their layered meaning might be something like bound by fire and fate, guided by divine providence, reborn through awakening, and protected by forces of both realms. It is a very fitting inscription for a warrior mage or someone marked by ancient powers that have their own order, like Dawnwalkers. Given what we know about Coen and the blood of Dawnwalker, the tattoos make a striking thematic match. There are at least 3 clear references to magic and esoteric nature that were put into one image. Coen is a character torn between bloodlines. He is not fully human or a vampire, and he's walking the line between mortality and supernatural existence. The red tattoos mirror that duality. They look like blood, yet behave like sigils. If we interpret each symbol, we can say that diamond shapes could represent boundaries or portals, crossed lines and stars might be glyphs of conjunction where magical forces intersect, zigzags and curves show the flow of energy, water, or rhythm, circle crosses are ancient sun or divine symbols, and a simple triangle is the alchemy fire symbol. Fire is also known as a masculine element. Taken together, they could be a map to understanding Coen's character, or a lock, a curse, or all 3. It fits into the lore as either a magical protection or a seal placed upon Coen either by someone else or by an ancient ritual he's part of. Even though I told you so many details and it could look like a final theory, I felt that something was off. I had an anxious thought that I must have missed something. As I was researching the runic and occult connections, my theory felt incomplete. Some designs in Coen's tattoos were runic, yes, but some lines didn't match any Norse runes, not even stylized ones. The cross-hatchings, boxed shapes, and diamond grids felt older and more primitive. I left the theory for a while and began reading the history of various sources to make a video about Ambrose and his concept art analysis. If you haven't seen it, check it out, by the way. It's full of historical references. So imagine that. I was reading about Carpathian region, Tartaria, and that's when I stumbled across the Vinca script. Instantly, I dropped Ambrose and started digging into ancient proto-writing systems of Europe. I came across these markings carved onto pottery and stone long before the Norse alphabet existed. The resemblance was so uncanny that I shouted in disbelief. I called my husband, saying that he must check if my eyes didn't lie. There were numerous symbols that can be found on Coen's arm. Some of them were almost identical, and finally, it made sense. The blood of Dawnwalker is set in the Carpathian region precisely where Vinca culture once thrived. If we believe archaeologists and historians, but let's say we believe them, the Vinca script doesn't have to be historically accurate and 100% proven to serve as a reference for a fantasy game. The Vinca symbols, also called the Vinca Turda script, are some of the oldest known proto-writing systems in Europe, dating back to 5000 BC. Discovered in the Balkan and Carpathian regions, these symbols were carved into ceramics and tools. Their meaning remains undeciphered, but many believe they had ritual or magical significance. Vinca culture was highly advanced for its time, crafting pottery, metal tools, and even early forms of urban settlement. Some theories propose that the Vinca script wasn't used for communication the way we use language, but instead to record rituals, symbols of power, or divine functions of gods. In that sense, it aligns perfectly with the magical aesthetic of Coen's tattoos. The Carpathians are not just a backdrop in Blood of Dawnwalker, they are a character in themselves. Coen's story is set in supernatural activity and a magical version of this world, so the idea of long-forgotten magic carved into his flesh makes perfect narrative and historical sense. It also supports the theory that the tattoos aren't just magical, they are somewhat archaeological, or should I say, ancient. They are living proof of a language that predates memory, reawakened through blood. The similarities aren't abstract. Here are some direct comparisons. We can see these diamonds or boxed shapes with central lines. Both Vinca symbols and Coen's tattoos share this form, and they can be interpreted as spiritual enclosures or portals. Cross-hatchings and X-forms frequently used in both, possibly signifying protection and conjunction of magic forces. Zigzags and wave lines could represent energy flow or cosmic resonance, while circle crosses could be a sun symbol in many ancient cultures, but also they are found in Vinca and echoed in Coen's markings. So we see a lot of influences put all together. Some of Coen's more complex tattoo symbols could easily be reimagined Vinca bind glyphs, combinations of individual characters merged with layered meaning, much like bind runes. Thus, together, they create a unique mystical alphabet of the Dawnwalker universe. So, what if these tattoos aren't Norse or Vinca or alchemical, but both? Imagine a world where magical traditions merged over millennia. The Nordic runes, already powerful, may have linked with even older glyphs of the Vinca origin. Coen's tattoos could represent this convergent language of power where Vinca forms act as structure and spiritual roots, and Norse runes offer specific functionality like protection, strength, fate, etc. The result is a language of living magic, awakened only by the blood of a Dawnwalker. Each tattoo is a phrase in this hybrid script encoding secrets, warnings, and spells into Coen's skin. They aren't just decorations, they are warnings, contracts, a prison, a key, could be anything really. Alright guys, let's start the discussion. I wonder if you see the similarities or not. How do you treat Coen's tattoos? Is it magic or just a fancy thing to style a protagonist? Is it a combination of all possible protection runes and sigils adapted by Dawnwalkers through time because their order is very ancient, older than times even? To me, Coen's tattoos are a masterpiece of visual storytelling. Whether consciously or not, they draw from deep wells of ancient European symbolism. By combining Norse runes, occult, geometry, and Vinča protoscript, they tell a story of blood, fate, and forgotten cultures. The in-game universe might imply that they are the mark of someone more than human, someone whose very skin speaks in tongues lost to time. And once you see the Vinča connection, you can't unsee it. The past isn't dead, it's inscribed in red and it walks with Coen between the realms of the living and dead. Have fun, play video games, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!